I'm laughing because I've had some technical issues. So anyways, hello, how are you today? I'm so excited. I wanted to come on and share something today. I felt a lot of inspiration, and when inspiration pours through me, I gotta get on here. So just in case you're new to me, my name is Dawn L, and I help women become their thriving future selves now with love, success, money through the lens of soul embodiment. Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, I want to tell a story about something that happened to me recently that I think can support you in the sense that maybe you've experienced something like this too. So, a little backstory to it. I recently had a falling out with a friend a couple months ago. There was some betrayal and some things that had happened. And, you know, it was a really dear friend and it was really hard. And so I tried to originally talk to the person about the things that had occurred. There wasn't space or capacity at that time for a conversation. And then recently she had reached out to me and in order to have a conversation because she was ready to talk. And I remember when I saw the message, I was kind of like, oh, so now you want to talk. And I felt really, I noticed a little bit of a defended heart. I noticed that I was kind of like, I'm going to have boundaries and I've been through these things before. And instead of just, you know, kind of letting somebody back in, I'm going to be really kind of more resolute about how I want to show up in this. And so, hi, Louisa. So I said yes to the conversation. I said, yes, I will have this conversation with you. Yes, I want to do this. But here's what's really interesting. How many times have you been hurt by somebody? And instead of being open to having a conversation or open to repair, you kind of just shut down and just say, you know what, I'm in my boundaries. No, I'm done with this. And there were a couple different parts of me that were kind of showing up at that time within this situation where one part of me was really hurt and upset and wanted to be super boundaried and be like, you know, no, I don't want to talk to you. And then there was another part of me, my higher self, that was like, hear her out, see what she has to say, give somebody a chance just to clear the air. So we wound up talking, and here's what's really interesting about life. When you decide that you want to operate from, maybe you want to call it 5D consciousness, or you want to operate from your highest self, you will be given multiple opportunities to show up from that place. And you don't realize that it's not that life is testing you. It's just that life wants to support you in becoming your best self. And are you willing to have an open heart and say yes to what's coming up and what is, you know, in your reality? Or are you going to resist it and say no because you are so in protection? You really think that I need to protect myself. I can't do this. This is just too much for me. So I led with an open heart. I showed up. It was wildly uncomfortable. I don't know about you, but having conversations that involve confrontation and speaking the deepest levels of truth is not the easiest thing for me. Although I am pretty straightforward as a person, there's just something when it comes to really like these deeper parts of my heart and being vulnerable, it's harder for me. Hey, Jennifer. And so when I showed up in this conversation, I really had to stay very grounded and very open. And a lot of times in the spiritual world, we think, oh, I have to be so, you know, I got to be protected. I can't open myself up to this. And my invitation to you is to trust yourself so deeply that you can have an open heart and stay boundaried at the same time. And so when I was in this conversation with her, I can't even tell you guys, it was kind of a miracle, honestly, because going back to what I was saying, the soul always has an opportunity for us to heal. I had a pattern in my past where I've been too lenient and too nice to people when they kind of treat me badly. And you know that saying, when somebody treats you bad, shame on them. But then if it keeps happening over and over again, shame on you. And I kind of, if I'm being really transparent, I've had a history of being, part of my work is I see people's higher selves. And so when I've been in relationship spaces in my life, and this started with my mom, I have this capacity to see the best and to have a high tolerance for BS sometimes. And it's something, hey Israel, it's good to see you. And it's something that I've had to really work on. And recently in May, as a matter of fact, I told myself, I'm like, okay, I'm going to be super boundaried. Nobody's going to penetrate this. I'm not putting up with this stuff anymore. I'm done with this. And that was partly due to this friendship. And so when I was talking to my friend and she wanted to do repair. And so I don't know if you have done this yet in your reality, but to be in a conversation with somebody where there's no particular outcome except to allow, to be present, so that whatever needs to shift, whatever needs to move can happen. It's uncomfortable because, like I said, you have to speak truth and you have to be willing to hear the other person out. And going back to this pattern that I had and this boundary that I was like, oh, I'm going to be so boundaried in this conversation. And I felt my heart, like when I was listening to her plight and what she's been going through, I have empathy. I have empathy. And although she hurt me, and there was betrayal, that's the truth of it, I was able to hold space and see her as a human that's trying to do the best that she can in a really challenging situation. And I think sometimes in life we make these snap judgments, right? Because we are so afraid that we're going to get taken advantage of or that somebody's going to, do something to us. And it's not, it's not always like that. And so something very beautiful happened for me yesterday where I was able to have repair through this conversation, through the energy of just listening and being open. So why I want to share this with you is because you may have boundaries that don't allow you to necessarily always show up in maybe all the ways that life is trying to invite you into. I believe boundaries are wildly important. And sometimes when we have lived without firm boundaries, we kind of swing the pendulum and then we become super boundaried and there's no middle. So I think sometimes life is trying to bring us back to that really regulated, nervous system regulated space where we're in our strength, but we can be open to duality. Because as spiritual beings on this planet, that's what we're here to learn, is how to be in duality, how to experience a conversation with somebody and not just be so, myopic in the way that we see things, but to be able to hold space for different viewpoints, different things. And the miracle that wound up happening for me is that I was able to repair. And there was healing, and I was able to allow it in such a way that, because everybody thinks that healing is like a doing. I got to do this thing. I'm gonna go, find this thing to heal. Healing is not a doing. And if you're chasing healing, then I really think sometimes that that's kind of what this culture and society teaches us in some ways. You don't have to chase healing. Life informs you what you need to work on through your day-to-day existence. And if you stay present and you're not resisting things, then you're always on track to move, shift, and elevate to who you're meant to be. And so when we don't resist life, it gets to surprise us. So yesterday, going into something with curiosity, a beginner's mind, not thinking, I didn't really know what was going to happen. And for somebody that reads people for a living, I can intuitively tap into people and energetically see all these different things for people. I had to put that aside and be neutral and just open to the fact that anything could happen in the conversation. And I was able to heal a pattern that had been in my life for so many years. So check this out. The pattern I healed was the one where I told you I didn't have, I didn't have proper boundaries growing up with my mom. Loved her to death. Still love her to death, but we had a codependency and we had some things going on. Anyways, I never got to repair that. My mom and I have never really been able to repair. We just kind of coexist. So I never got to repair that. And then I've had, a significant relationship in my life where I had the same kind of dynamic, and I never have gotten to repair that. But through this conversation, I got to show up for myself, and I got to have repair and see that that pattern that existed in me doesn't always have to continue to be there. And that was so healing because it was a deep allowance. So life surprised me yesterday, and it was a beautiful surprise, and it was amazing. And I'm so glad that I said yes to the conversation. And I'm also really glad that I didn't let a spiritualized ego or spiritual bypassing take over. And I just taught a masterclass about this last week called the reclamation process. Well, when we're coming into wholeness, like one of the things I talk about is sometimes we get a spiritualized ego and we think that we are better than somebody else. Like we know more, we're more evolved. And I call BS on that. If you think that you're more evolved than somebody else, really check yourself before you wreck yourself, because a lot of times that is a protection. That is not living with an open heart. Yes, you're going to have differences of opinions, and there's all different things that happen. Like I said, it's a planet of duality. But can you hold space for all of it? Because everything has a right to exist. And if you are going to learn to love yourself and come to the wholeness within your own being, that means that you have to be able to accept all of you. How can you accept somebody else if you haven't done it for yourself? So that spiritual ego wants to keep us thinking that we have it all figured out, when in reality, sometimes the best way to approach life is with a beginner's mind. The Fool, from the Tarot, the Fool card. And being open to the magic, miracles, and possibilities that exist when we lead with an open heart. And part of what I coach on, actually the huge part of it, is futuring and becoming your future self. And becoming your future self is not about trying to jump a timeline and just be that person. It's about coming into wholeness right now and choosing how you want to feel, not waiting till some future thing happens for you so that you can be that person. And so yesterday I got an opportunity to really practice that, to really be with myself, to love myself. And so I wonder for you, are you resisting what wants to support you in your evolution to become your most thriving self? Or are you open? And if you're somebody that, wants to do this, and, for me, I really had to practice some forgiveness yesterday. And I had to come back to my tools and to managing my nervous system in the conversation so I can stay really embodied and not kind of go into my mind and analyze and all these kind of things. But if you are somebody who really wants to thrive and learn how to step into more meaning and more of what your life can be with the deepest level of connection, and not being afraid to live fully and accept all parts of you so you can accept parts of other people, message me. I have 2 coaching spots right now open for 6 months to a year. And I don't open them very often, but I'm just really in this space of wanting to support somebody who's willing to do the work. That's the key. When we say we want to become something, we have to shift our identity and our personality. And so many people say they want to do that. But when it comes to facing those parts of ourselves, like I had yesterday where I could have said no, but I said yes. And that's when everything shifts. So if you're in that space, reach out to me. And also, if you want to see my masterclass that I taught last week, it's $77. It's called the Reclamation Process. I teach my whole process on how to come into the wholeness of your being and how to really elevate and step into a healing process more of as a heroine's journey or a hero's journey, not so much as I gotta heal, I gotta fix myself. No, we don't. But if you want to be a better person, you're gonna be present to when life wants to help support you to become more embodied. So anyways, I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. Just felt so inclined to share this. Reach out to me if you have questions. I'd love to hear your comments. See you later.